Welcome to Stirring Strengths, Perspectives on Mental Health and Addiction. I'm your host, Dean Anderson, and on today's show, I've got a big teddy bear from the community. He doesn't look like one, he looks like a big, mean, gruff guy. His name is Ahmed Safa, and he is the COO and co-founder of Canadian Security Solutions.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Dean. It's always a pleasure.
It's wonderful to see you, as always.
Awesome.
As always. So I think that the first question is, if I'm sitting at home and I'm watching a show on mental health and addiction, and I'm going to say, why is there a security dude on here?
Well, I mean, we're kind of bringing, well, it's been a couple years now, but you know, we're bringing a new approach, you know, the right approach to the mental health and addictions world, you know, when it comes to security. You know, my partner and I, a few years back, we came together and we saw there was a gap in the industry. You know, security guards just weren't trained, educated, taught to deal with mental health, you know, or just have that trauma-informed approach. So we came together and we said, hey, we gotta set a new standard here, right? We saw that the crisis was getting worse. We knew that, you know, security wasn't getting the training that they needed, you know, and, you know, I was looking to become a police officer at the time. So I kind of took a step back and said, you know, I can help a lot of people being a police officer, or, you know, we can train security guards the right way and educate them on how to, you know, talk to people that have mental health and, you know, deal with triggers and report building and just have that trauma informed. But yeah, it's been a success so far, and it's obviously needed, you know, with the rate that we're growing. It's been a ride. Yeah.
I get that you could see that, you know, there was a disconnect in how security is being performed, but there must be some personal motivation or your own private story that leads you into to making that shift, other than just being a police officer, right? You have the experience in like entering your career into this, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, just getting to know the people that I worked with along the years, hearing their stories, how they ended up where they were, you know, just wanting to get back to them and help them. You know, I felt like, you know, I had a calling, and I felt like if anyone was going to do this, it was me. So that's kind of when I went to my partner, we spoke a little bit, and we really saw that, you know, we can make something happen here. So, you know, again, hearing the stories and seeing, you know, these people are people, you know, they're good people and they're people, right? So, you know, just wanting to help them, and, you know, this is the best way that we know how to do it, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
You're so humble.
Thank you.
No, and I'm not joking, because I'm asking you this because I'm probing you to tell me a little bit more about what it is that your motivations are and your driving desire here. And I know the story already. I'm trying to get you to reveal it for the people at home. But what I know of you is going into, you worked with the unhoused population, the homeless.
Yep. Worked in shelters for a few years.
Shelters.
Between youth, adult, some housing programs. I did some crisis response and outreach. So a little bit of everything. And, you know, I kind of took a step back from the security for a little while and got more of a different lens in the sector.
Yeah.
But, you know, I went back into security. I kind of merged the two approaches together.
Okay.
You know, and we're showing people there is a way that you can, you know, still have compassion and empathy, but still put your foot down when you need to as well. There's a way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you were a security guard and you didn't have mental health training, and you were participating in because you were in well, they call it the front line, right?
Right.
And I don't know if that's appropriate or not.
Yeah.
But we call it the front line, and it's about, you know, looking at people at the depths of, you know, their lowest space that many people can get to.
Yeah.
And we have death and loss and all those things happening in that space. And you get introduced into security world of being like, here you go.
Yeah.
Right. And not with a proper trauma-informed training. What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, if I look back over a decade ago when I started security, I didn't receive any type of training, right? You receive, you know, the ministry course that you do online and kind of go from there, but there's no one actually mentoring you or coaching you and training you on what to do. It's just you show up and you go from there. So, you know, from what I understood was you were supposed to be aggressive in security, and you were supposed to toss people out and do this and that. But I learned very quickly once I entered the social sector, and when I started working in shelters, that approach didn't work. I learned right away because I'm giving people some lip, and I'm swearing at them, and I'm telling them to beat it, and you're like, okay, well, I learned very fast that this wasn't going to work because of the reaction that I got. So I said, okay, I need to take this from a different angle, right? Maybe I'll try being kind and respectful and, treat these people like human beings, So
let's try something new and innovative, right? By being kind and compassionate.
Yeah, but, it wasn't normal for a security guard from what I was seeing, for them to be kind, and I was like, okay, well, I know deep down I'm actually a kind person, and I'm just kind of putting on this show in security where, I have to be mean, but, that's not the case. And, like I said, I learned very quickly that, when you're kind and respectful and you're treating people like they're human, you're gonna get it back 99% of the time, right? You're gonna get the odd person that's having a bad day or whatever the case is. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
So I think that's so fascinating because it's, I laugh at the idea of saying, what about being kind? What is it that, is it something within the training that says that it's not meant to be kind? Is there something within the subculture of it? Is it just an egocentric approach to being in charge? Or like, what is it that gets a person to that state of saying that this needs to be aggressive or humanity and kindness can't be involved?
I think it is a little bit about the culture. And, if you go back years ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago, it was just a normal thing. And, if you're watching TV and you see security on TV, you see the way that they act. And, like I said, they're tossing people out, or, they're using a heavy voice on whoever. But, at the same time, security has changed since, 20, 30 years ago. And we have to understand that it's no longer just, observe and report. Now, we're expected to do a little bit more. And sometimes we can't wait for emergency services. So we have to be that first responder to step in, no matter, it could be fire, medical, or, a weapon call or like a policing issue. But, we're that buffer until they get there. We don't have time to wait sometimes.
Yeah. I was in a local shopping center not so long ago, and there was a very brief fire, and who came running to the rescue? I saw CSS people running through the mall with a fire extinguisher and taking care of it. So you're not wrong. You're the first responder for more things than you think. I love the idea, more back to what we're talking about, the compassion and the kindness and integrating that into, day-to-day work. And I can also see that most of security calls, to my understanding, do have a mental health element to it no matter what. Like even if you go into, because I know that you do contracts all over now Southern Ontario.
Yep.
And they're not just in mental health, they're also in regular shopping
commercial
spaces,
settings.
Commercial settings, special events. Would you be able to warrant a guess of how many times when you're participating in the need for security that it's actually mental health related or addiction related versus deviance or somebody just up to no good?
Yeah, I mean, even in our commercial settings, right, we still deal with mental health calls. We still deal with, homeless population. And, it might be a little bit of a different approach, but we're still giving that approach to those people that need it, right? My guards at, the mall, for example, they know who to connect this person to if they need a service, if they need support, right? We call outreach to help us out a lot. We rely on outreach a lot. So, they may carry handcuffs at one of my sites, but not at my shelter sites, right? So commercial may be a little bit more, more pushing, more enforcement of rules, but, we know when to flip the switch, and we still know how to deliver that same approach to the people who need it, right? And we don't always know who is going through a mental health crisis or who's in a bad position, right?
Okay, yeah.
So we need to make sure we're approaching everyone the same way, right? And we still need to give that customer service. For some reason, in the security industry, customer service is nowhere to be found. So, and I don't know why, right? Because we're a business, right? So why are we not delivering customer service? Why are we not putting on a smile?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's something that I think you're right. There's something that says, it goes hand in hand to assume that if security is involved, you don't deserve customer service. Like
right,
you're in
right. I'm supposed to be a bad guy,
you've
and
done
that's it.
something to lose your
Yeah.
right for customer service.
Right.
So I was kind of like, I took it when you said customer service, I was like for who, right?
Right.
Even my sensibility is set up like customer service for what?
Right.
Somebody stealing, and like they deserve a smile too.
Right.
But I guess you're not wrong, and you're talking about, my question, earlier was how much of your regular calls in a regular environment are actually mental health related, but then you said, we don't know, so we assume.
Right.
So we kind of step in there saying, I don't know what's going on in this person's life.
Right.
But clearly, if they're doing something that's required them to call security,
That's right.
there's something.
There may be something going on.
There's certainly something.
Right.
Right? Because people don't just act out or steal or become violent
Right.
or set fires
Right.
unless there's something going on.
Right. Yeah, the odd call where someone can't find their vehicle or whatever the case is, or, that's it. But yeah, for the most part, it's
Okay.
something's going on, right?
Right.
Like you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's still the kitten in a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's certainly important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason why I take that approach is because, determining how valuable having a mental health strategy and security is not just for people working in the front line or people working in with the homeless populations.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But it doesn't seem to be the standard or the norm.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You've been also doing lots of work within the city and participating in what is going on right now within the fentanyl crisis and the epidemic with unhoused, the explosion of homelessness that's happened. How are you guys facing that today? How are you dealing with that?
It's tough. I mean, now that the winter's finished, right? So a lot of the winter funding has ended. And, we're starting to see desperation, right? When you start to take away those services that are no longer funded, we're starting to see, this person hasn't been indoors in a few days, or we don't know when they have their last meal, right? And not everybody's allowed everywhere. Some people get trespassed. They may have had a really bad day and they did something that they shouldn't, and now nobody wants to accept them. So what happens is they may come to our front door and try and smash a window or threaten us. They may have nothing to lose, or they may say that they have nothing to lose and they'll do whatever they want, right? So
yeah, the funding, winter funding, just to get clarity on that, there's an influx of funding that comes from donors of the city when we know that the weather is extreme to allow for more housing and more stuff. That
correct.
Tapers off.
Yep.
And then that leads to more people participating in street living.
That's right.
Urban camping, that sort of thing starts to happen as the weather gets nicer.
That's right.
Which creates a reduction in funding and service access, but an increase in behavior.
Right. Correct.
Harder to manage.
Yeah. So then emergency services have to take on more, right? And then we're going to start seeing slower response times, and then we have social workers who are just trying to show up and help people. But at the same time, they're relying on job security and they don't know when their position's going to be funded. So it's like, not only do I have to come and show up and, deal with crisis every day, but I also have to worry about getting paid, having a job, paying my own bills. Am I going to become homeless in a few months, right? So it's been a mess.
Right. There's lots to it. And I know that within I don't want to get into the politics of it, because there's lots of politics around all of this. Right? So it's not just as simple as saying, hey, we're going to go out and help the community and do the best we can.
Right.
Right. And in trying to do so, the work that you're doing, I'm assuming there's increased cost to train people to get them to that space of being to be trauma-informed. That's part of the reason why it didn't exist in the first place.
That's right.
Because no one wanted to put that energy into it.
That's right.
So there's certainly some costs involved. So how is it that you are able to manage those increased expenses to make sure that your people are properly trained?
Well, thankfully we have partners who offer trainings to us. Okay. Right. So our trainings go on and on. I mean, I couldn't name them all right now if I wanted to. But I also, myself and some of our senior leadership in-house, decided to get trained in certain areas.
Okay.
So that we can be trained in-house and we no longer have to pay and outsource that education.
Okay.
Right? Use of force, for example.
Yeah.
I know that, you know, if you look at before, it would be once a year. We do use of force, defensive tactics. It's a year. You know, you get a nice little certificate. It looks pretty. But who's really learning from that once a year, right? Practice makes perfect. So we said that if we were to get certified in-house, we could train our guards regularly. We give them more confidence. We make them safer on the job. But we also protect those who, you know, we're dealing with, right? Sometimes we have to go hands-on.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, we want to make sure that, well, not sometimes, but all the time, we want to make sure that it goes as, you know, like we want to minimize the damage, basically. Of course. Right? So not only do we want to protect ourselves, but we want to protect those we're dealing with, right? So that's, you know, use of force is just one example of why, you know, we became in-house certified, is so that we can minimize the damage that's happening, right?
Right. So creating your own model of internal training and being able to take all those things, and then it sounds like some community partners as well, because if you're partnering up with the infrastructure of social services, you got some pretty smart people there that can teach you some of these mental health and addiction things. Right?
Exactly. Like I mentioned before, you know, I had both lenses, right, in social work and in security, and I've received training in both areas. So when you combine the two and you give that to someone, you know, they're going to be a pretty solid candidate, right? So again, we're always trying to learn. We're always trying to educate our guards. And we also have to like continue adapting to times, right? There's going to be new things coming out, and we're going to have to continue to educate them on whatever's, you know, AI is here now, right? So we need to start using AI in a way where it's appropriate, right? So
yeah, use the tools that you have.
Simply.
What would you say is, you know, if there was one thing that's like the thing that's just, you know, if I could just solve this one thing, if I could just have one thing, you got a magic wand and you just boom and something's fixed. What is it? What's the thing?
Well, it would be to end homelessness, right? I mean, we spoke about it a little bit before.
So you wave the magic wand to put yourself out of work.
That's it. That's fine. And I'm fine with that, you know? And we have, like I mentioned before, we have
I believe you. That's the reason why I called you on it, because I sincerely believe that's true.
It's been a challenge, right? I have, you know, I'm at war with myself. You know, I have a business, but I also have that compassion, and I want people to get help. So, you know, it kind of sucks sometimes because I think about it a lot, and I say, okay, I'm a business that's charging a nonprofit, but my business is essential, and I know that they can't really operate without us. So, you know, luckily my partner Hendry, you met before.
Yep.
You know, he's fantastic, and you know, I couldn't do this without him because, you know, he keeps me in line sometimes, and I'm, you know, there are times where I'm like, okay, well, can we charge them a little bit less? But at the same time, I want to pay guards a little bit more because I know they're underpaid. So it's like, where do you meet? You know, what do you settle for? What do you give up?
Right.
So it's been a challenge because I've been that frontline social worker, and I've been that frontline security guard, and I made that, you know, $15 an hour, right? If you go back years ago. So I think that's the biggest challenge is, you know, trying to choose what's, you know, do I put the business first or do I put the people first? But it's like we can meet in the middle and do the best we can, right?
I say this often in the work that I do. If you look at if you find out where your biggest discomfort is, you're usually going to see a clash in your values. You're going to see one thing that's important, another thing that's important, and they're fighting over one another, right?
Right.
And this is what you're describing, and I'm with you because I get it. Like I work in with, you know, a vulnerable population of mental health,
right?
But there's a cost to that. There's an expense to
you
know, paying the bills and having staff and doing it. And if I had my way, I would have an unlimited amount of funds, and I would just help all the people, and we would just do these things, and it would be so great. But often when we're doing it because we have to watch, you know, bottom lines and make things work, when it comes to helping the city or the people in it and being compassionate, those things don't always mesh up.
Right.
And it's a real battle. So I totally get that. So if you could solve one problem, it would just be you have someone else pays for all of it, and you just get to keep doing your work.
That's it. You know, whatever contracts come our way, whatever clients we take on, You know, whoever needs us, we'll help out. But you know, if I could, and you know, majority of our work is, you know, it's in this sector. So again, if I could end it all today, I would. You know, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm okay. I'm not looking to be rich. I'm not looking to, you know, yeah, it's nice owning a business, don't get me wrong. And, you know, it's nice to have the flexible schedule at times. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just been a battle for 10, you know, almost 10 years now, where, you know, we're trying to fix this thing, but it's not going anywhere. And, you know, I guess our part is just trying to minimize the damage along the journey, until it gets fixed. You know, that's really it.
Yeah, so there's so many compassionate people out there trying to work themselves out of a job. But then the more that we see that there's job security because it's not being solved, the worse we feel, because we know we're not.
Right. No, exactly. And you know what? I feel like any social worker in the field, or anyone helping the people on the front line, really anybody on the team, I guess, but, you know, they should feel like, you know, if tomorrow they had no job because this crisis ended, they should be okay with it, right? You're in this sector to help people, and if those people are helped, then, you know, you can move on, right? But I feel like some people don't really think of it that way, or they don't have a backup plan because they know that, you know, based on what we've seen over the years, it's not really going anywhere, right? And I'm a positive person, right? But, you know, from what I'm seeing is it's getting worse, if anything. And you can see it, right? You drive around the city and you're seeing, you know, what's going on. It's like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel?
Right.
You know?
You have a unique lens, though. So not so long ago, somebody came to me and they said, "Hey, Dean, I'm thinking about, you know, doing some research or study on, you know, the unhoused population, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, well, have you seen it?" And they go, "Well, yeah, I've seen, you know, the person out front of the liquor store or whatever."
Yeah.
Like, okay, have you seen it? And they're like, "Well, I don't know." So then we went for a drive.
Yeah.
And we drove down, you know, Dundas East and went around. And then they were like, "This is not what I thought it was. This is much different." And there's a whole subsection of the city that sees bits and pieces of it, but they really don't see what's going on in certain areas in the East End and in the parks and that sort of thing. So there's so much more there. You know, when you see that and you see what's going on there, you know, is there a message that you would like to, you know, let the community know about, like, what it is they're not seeing?
I mean, you know, a lot of these people don't want to be on the street, right? A lot of these people want to be in shelters. There's no space, right? Like I mentioned earlier, there's, you know, funding gets cut. These people just want, you know, a safe place to sleep at night, right? You know, they want, if they can shower, they want to shower. They want to eat. They want basic needs, right? That's all it is. It's, you know, unfortunately, in any group, any demographic, you're gonna have bad apples, right? And, you know, people assume that these people are bad and that they're causing problems around the city. You know, them just sitting there simply under their tarp, under their tent, you know, doing nothing is, you know, frustrating people, right? But they don't see that this person may be trying to get housed, or, you know, their landlord was just a bad person and they booted them out. A lot of people are one paycheck away, right? We're seeing an increase in elderly homelessness, right? So it's like, we can't judge. Like, we don't know that person's story, and we don't know how hard they're trying to get off the street. But in the meantime, you know, they're just trying to survive until they figure it out. Where are they supposed to go, right?
Right. The statistics would suggest that of the people living unhoused, only 25% of them are substance use related, that 75 are other things, right? When you're out, you know, doing the work that you do, even in my own mind, my assumption is that you're doing a lot of, you know, substance use regulation and keeping people away, or using drugs here and there tends to be, you know, a little bit more criminal activity in that space. But the reality of it is there's a lot of it that's not. It's the other 75%, right? What does that make up? Like you said, that there's an increase in elderly, but what other things are going on with people that would put them in that 75%?
Like I mentioned, I mean, it could be one paycheck away from paying rent. It could be loss of a job. due to a layoff. It could be really anything. Maybe a family member died and now they can no longer support themselves, or, you know,
Right.
there's so many factors.
Right.
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 Yeah.
It's I think the message for the people at home is you don't know. You just don't know. It's not what you think it is, and it's not all deviance and criminal activity. That there's so much more to it. In the last few minutes that we have, Ahmed, do you have a feel good story? Do you have like a thing that like you like to share with people, of like something that turned around or flipped, that's like, you know, this happened and it sticks in your head?
To me, the best thing that, you know, the best thing about this is, you know, coming into this sector, starting security in the sector, a lot of people didn't have trust for someone in a uniform. They wouldn't even look at someone in a uniform. No smiling, no nothing. I mean, it was complete trauma past. You know, something happened in the past, and whether it was their fault or not, there has been a bad experience, right? So to have our brand show up on site, and that person to recognize the brand, the amount of respect that person gives whoever's wearing the vest, not just me, is incredible. Because a lot of these people, again, like I said, they don't trust anyone in uniform. They don't like anyone in uniform. They automatically assume that they're all bad apples or whatever the case is. So to have that positivity anywhere we go is, okay, I know that brand. I know that brand is a safe place. I can go to that person if I need help, right? So to create that positive image is probably the best part of this work, honestly.
So seeing your hard work, you know, come to fruition,
Exactly.
being able to see a sense of trust and safety.
Exactly.
I hope you recognize how much the role you play in that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of our guards that come in, they don't really know the approach until they're coached and mentored and trained. But, you know, like I said before, being kind and respectful and encouraging them to keep on, you know, pushing that approach, you know, they learn very quickly, right? And they start to build that rapport, and they start to get to know people and hear their stories, right? And you know, I feel like once you hear somebody's story, you know, you take it and run, and you're like, okay, this person is not a bad person. They're here for a reason that was out of their control. And that just starts to open up your mind a little bit, right? So
I love it. There is something now where they're, you know, taking social workers and trying to integrate them into police work. And so that there's this crossover. And then there's also this crossover now to say that, hey, how do we, you know, create more of an emotional safe place within security? And I'm glad that you're the person doing it. It's pretty powerful stuff. The way that we end up coming to participate in these things, it's often more important about, you know, because we can train anybody on anything.
That's right.
But the underlying person, the compassionate, kind person, is really what comes out, and then we can teach them skills with that underlying piece. So
that's right.
If we'll say to the people at home, if you're a person who is looking to work in a compassionate field while keeping people safe, then keep Canadian Security Solutions in mind.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks, Ahmed. Thank
you.
Thanks for all that you do, and thanks for being on the show.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
I appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you for watching Stirring Strength, and we'll see you next time.